You're a little bit more of a gearhead, right? You love lenses, you love cameras, and I'm always like, oh, well, a hammer is a hammer. For me, the camera is a tool to access the individual. Morning, Otto, and happy holidays.
Yeah, Feliz Navidad.
That's right.
From incredible Oaxaca City.
Christmas in Mexico, Christmas in Idaho. That's where we're at.
Yeah, I've been spending all week in my my mezcal basement, the place we're renting. It's like 3 levels. In the bottom, it has a basement with a mezcal. It's a mezcal basement, so you can sample the mezcal. And an incredible like fuzzy audio setup. And so I've just been sitting down there with the speakers to these, just directed at my ears, like full blast. Deep house, Christmas upstairs for the wife and kids, house for me, and emails. So it's been good.
losing your hearing while you're drinking mezcal.
I lost my hearing years ago.
Well, I guess we are 5 or 6 episodes in now, and we just wanted to take a little bit of a shift here. We've been talking a lot about business. We've been talking a lot about to guests they're giving us their insights, and we are, after all, photographers.
Yeah.
Right. So we thought we'd just make a little shift here and maybe talk a little bit about photography.
Yeah. I mean, because for years I was a struggling artist, right? So it's fair enough. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's what got us started in this, right? When I started a photographer, there was no intention of becoming a business owner or starting a business. There was certainly no vision whatsoever for becoming a wedding photographer, right?
Yeah.
It was just purely, I don't know, it was a soul draw. I don't know, is that a word? You know, you got drawn to something. And so maybe go back a bit. I remember I was living in Kathmandu in Nepal, 2001 to 2003, and just kind of tracking through the Himalayas. And in Kathmandu, there's a little area called Tamel, and it's like the tourist area. So we would go in these tracks for 2-3 weeks and then come back to Kathmandu to Tamel, grab a steak, grab a shower for 2-3 days, Western up a little bit, and head back out again, right, for rice and elevation. And there was a bookstore in Tamel. And I remember walking into this bookstore and I picked up a Cartier-Bresson, Henri Cartier-Bresson book. And really, it was like a life-changing moment. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like, I saw his work and I'm like, this is what I've been seeing my whole life. You know, like, I mean, his work is just so layered and just, he was a painter, right? Anyway, so that just, it literally arrested me. I was mesmerized by it.
When you say it arrested you, it stopped you, it's mesmerizing. Like, what is it that you're seeing in his work, in that book, in the world? What is it that you're seeing that talk about that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like for me, even growing up, like watching movies, I was always more drawn to the balance of the out of focus stuff in the scene. So if there's a scene going and there's an actor in the main, they're in focus, my eye kind of calculates the geometry around it, the bokeh, and so with Cartier-Bresson, his frames, if you go look at his work, and if you guys don't know his work, please go look at it. He's truly one of the masters. And what set him apart, technically he's a horrible photographer. He was actually a painter. And so when you look at his work, it's very flawed technically. It's out of focus often or slightly blurred, you know, but it's that balance of composition. It's immense if you go look at it. Some of the frames are just crazy. 2 ducks, 2 little boys, 2 windmills, 2 adults, 2 pieces of bread in one frame. You know, and all of this work it's street photography, right? So it was shot, the 50s and that time where everybody was out and about. People weren't as like, I don't know, like living in their own space as we do now in the West, you know, my yard, my house. And so I think there was a lot of delight. There was a lot of life on the street to be captured, you know, people walking around from the baker with their bread, you know, and the kids playing with some old wheel. And he just walked around as a painter. And I think he saw this and he had no idea what he was doing technically. He would just snap. And that for me I went to Nepal with like a little Nikon camera, an N80, old little 35 millimeter film camera. And I had no idea what I was doing technically, but I saw I'm not saying I'm Cartier-Bresson by any means, but I saw in a similar way. He had this famous quote where he said, "You see, you feel, and the surprised eye responds." And this was very much my experience. I would see something, I didn't know why I was drawn to it, and it was like the composition for me was like, it would like go, and all of a sudden I'm like, click, there it is. And when I saw that book in that bookstore, I was like, damn it, that's it. I want to do that. And that's literally where photography for me started. That's the moment that I decided I want to be a photographer, specifically a documentary photographer back then. Yeah. Does that answer it, Jimmy?
Yeah, no. I as I listened to you talk, if you were in a movie, right, they would be showing all these shapes and figures like over the screen, like it's calculated, right? Because as I watch you work now, I think it's the same thing that this composition is happening on the fly, like as you see it, and then all of a sudden, like there it is, it comes together. And you're surprised by it. You see it happening. And I mean, that's what you're looking for all day long at a wedding.
Yeah. And it's a thing that he was known for, right? Cartier-Bresson, the decisive moment, what he called the decisive moment. It's that moment where literally you go, there, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's the power of the still image, isn't it? There's another TV series that we both love called The Patriot on Amazon.
Yes.
Especially the first season. And this is filmed very similar to me. It's like the scene gets set. It's very like framed up, and then they let things happen. Tick, 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 tick. The person walks in. It's like it's the movement version of it. But anyway,
that's the movie Belfast is that way. Also, if you haven't watched Belfast, like that's another one. Is
that the black and white one? It's shot black and white.
Yeah, man, it is even more than The Patriot. It's crazy. And as it just kind of dawned on me as I listened to you speak, that decisive moment. Because I always equate the decisive moment with the moment, right? The action that whatever that person is doing. But it's really that's part of it. But then it's also all those other layers all coming together in the decisive moment.
Yeah, man. But that actually brings me right to you. Let me interview you a bit now and the way you see things and shoot, right? And then you can tell me more about it. But yes, for me, it's very much like. It can be anything. It can be light. It can be composition. It can be something happening in the frame, right? And I kind of set it up that way and I wait for it to happen. But for you, the decisive moment is very, very much the person. I watch you shoot and it's you're connecting with the person the whole time. You shoot like this. You're like, because you're looking for something from the person, right?
Yeah.
Yap about that. Let's hear it.
Yap about that. Well, I guess my background, like how I came to photography was in college, I had a roommate that was really into photography. He'd been shooting since he was a freshman in high school. And he was the editor of the yearbook. So he was taking photos in college, all this, and bringing them home. And I would start going through them with him as he's like deciding, like going through the culling process. Right.
Yeah.
And his talent was connecting with people also. And I saw that in his work and I'm like, ooh, that's cool. So I picked up a camera. And of course, the first couple of years of me picking up a camera, I was shooting flowers and cats like you do.
See,
that's what the hobbyist does. Like you buy a book on photography and there's, it's a macro photo of a flower and then a bird in flight and a cat sitting on a porch. It's all these things. And but it makes sense. That's what you have access to. Right. It's what's easy to practice on. And then it wasn't until I was a teacher later that I met this guy, another teacher, who now is a professor of communications, but he was really into photography. Not the act of photography, though he had a camera.
Yeah,
he was into collecting photography books, and so he introduced me to this whole world of like fine art photography and just the master photographers. And so we used to go down, we would drive an hour and a half down to Santa Monica where I lived near where I lived at the time. And there was this great photography bookstore. The whole store was just full of photo books.
Yeah.
And we would just go start thumbing through. And that's where all of a sudden I like, oh my goodness. Like it was no longer cats and flowers. It was real photography. And a couple of photographers that Richard Avedon.
Oh my gosh.
The portraits that he gets of people like really drew me in. Another guy, Elliot Erwitt, who's just, I think, full of joy and humor. But to me, it's all about both those guys. Irving Penn is another one.
Yeah.
It's about connecting with the human being, the personality that's behind that moment or this person. Like, who are they really?
Yeah, man.
And what's interesting about them? And so then all of a sudden I was like, ooh, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like people, I want to photograph people.
It's interesting when you mention Elliot Erwitt, and I think of our complementary styles. Elliot Erwitt was also a street photographer, right? And he actually just passed away. But if I compare Cartier-Bresson and Elliot Erwitt, it's a perfect comparison between me and you. Because Bresson as a street photographer was very compositional and geometric and set up in that way. And Elliot Erwitt was very like just reactionary.
Yeah, snapshotty.
Yeah, snapshotty. That's interesting. I've never thought about it like that. Yeah. For the younger photographers, this is a different experience because you have the internet. When we started out, there wasn't internet. And so I remember the same thing, sitting in a bookstore, digging through Avedon books or Elliot Erwitt or Salgado and kind of going, why am I drawn to this? Why is this a master of photography?
Yeah.
Kudelka and, all the masters, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the background, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Eugene Smith. And I, honestly, for anyone that's listening that hasn't really experienced a photography book, I would highly recommend go to a bookstore if you can find one these days. I guess when you hold a photography book in front of you, there's something about that singular frame.
Yeah.
And the way that they have, in the back in the day, right, in the darkroom, spent time not just capturing the image, but spent time processing that image, right? Yeah. Like dodging and burning and the craftsmanship is so evident when you hold a book like this.
Yeah. The process was just way more involved, right? Like you said, like back in the day, even just the ability, not back in the day, 20, 30 years or more ago even, right?
Yeah, right.
Even just the ability to make a properly exposed image required several steps. Like you shooting slide film or black and white, like you said, it's not just nowadays you click that button, you have a 100 megapixel raw file with like a million stop dynamic range and you can do whatever you want with it. But back in the day, if the processing wasn't point on, if your printer wasn't good, the thing didn't work, you know? Right. And so I think it just like, it sharpened you up. You had to think through the process a lot more. Nowadays, we're just like, go, 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 especially with wedding photography. And I think maybe this is one of the things where for years we still shot film for that reason, because it slowed you down. It forced you to go, because with a film camera back in the day, if you were just like snapping, you were in trouble. You couldn't do that. And so it was just more, craft, that obsession,
So what does craftsmanship mean to you now, right? Like you're saying back in the day, people shooting film, it was more difficult. If you start thinking about a large format camera, right?
Just focusing that thing was hell. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole different ball of wax. But what does craftsmanship mean to you now as a wedding photographer?
That was when I started as a wedding photographer, I brought that exact same mindset into it. It was like, because processing it, test stripping it, spending hours in the darkroom on one print, right? Retouching like with paint, with that little brush, little specks and stuff. And so when I started out with weddings, that was the vision, to do it the exact same way. But it quickly became like a Photoshop thing, digital cameras came in. And so actually more than digital, like Imacon scanner, still shooting a lot of film back then, the Hasselblad X-Band or large format. scanning that image meticulously, and then bring it into Photoshop. And the first few weddings for the first few years, that's what I did, one by one in Photoshop, every single image. I remember LightRoom came out and I just rejected it. I'm like, no, it was so much more efficient. It would have made my life so much easier. But as an artist, there was this feeling that I had to earn the image. I had to work for it. It had to be crafted. You know what I mean? And so I would open 800 images one by one in Photoshop and consider every single frame, compositionally, crop wise. I dodge and burn every single frame, meticulously.
Yeah.
And, looking back at it now, that's excessive. As a wedding photographer, it's simply not necessary. And we certainly use LightRoom now.
Yes,
we do, but because the equipment has just gotten so good. But to answer your question, I'm trying to think, what is the craft for us now? I think it shifts for an artist, for a photographer over the years, because as you kind of grow and develop and add to your toolkit, it shifts. Because when I started with photography, you joked about this earlier. The first time I picked up a camera, the only thing I could see was focus. What I was focused on, bokeh. And then I got over that, added that to my toolkit, and then it became all about light. Light. And that's all I saw was light. And I kind of added light to my toolkit. And then it became about the moment. And so you started combining focus with light and moment. And then you add composition to it, and you go on and on until it becomes a seamless process. I think now, maybe the current emphasis for us now in crafting the images is the content, it's what's happening inside the frame. It's the quality of what's in the frame really more than anything. Because, I think back, the equipment got so good a few years ago. We were shooting a lot of Sony gear and it was just effortless. Just press the button, tack sharp, beautiful image out. And we were in New York City. When was this, James? Like 5 or 6 years ago for a wedding. And we decided to go to an exhibition. And it was a Diane Arbus exhibition on. And if you guys know Diane Arbus, again, go check it out. And it was an exhibition of just small photographs, like 4x6 photos, right? Size photos. And they were just magnificent, like beautifully flawed photographs. Like coming from where we were then, our images were just tack sharp, technically perfect. And here we walked into this exhibition of just 100 flawed photos, movement, blur. And again, like with Cartier-Bresson the first time, we were just captivated. Both me and you were just like, oh man, we need to bring this back into the work. The beauty of flaw. Because with her work, it was all about the content, the character in the frame, who cares about the technical, right? And that, I think, shifted craft for us again. It added to that, it added another layer, I think.
Yeah, for sure. All those, the technical side of photography comes to mind, but now 20 years in of my career, like the technical side of photography, like seeing light, like setting your apertures, like all these things, I don't really, those are subconscious now for me. Yeah. I don't really think of that as the thing that's difficult or the thing that's the craft. And so for me, you're a little bit more of a gearhead, right? You love lenses, you love cameras, and I'm always like, oh, well, a hammer is a hammer. For me, the camera is a tool to access the individual. Yeah. So for me, that's the craftsmanship. It's yes, seeing great light and seeing somebody in that great light, and then how do I connect with this person and really draw out like who they are in this moment. Whether that's what they're experiencing or just, something that I see in them.
Yeah.
A beauty, the way they laugh, the way their eyes are, how they communicate, their body language, whatever it is. To me, that's the craftsmanship. And I think it's honestly what drew me to photography in the first place. As I mentioned before, it gave me access. Because you can't just walk up to a stranger without a camera. I mean, you can. It's more difficult to just walk up.
You actually do.
And start talking to somebody, like just to shoot the breeze. But when you have a camera, it gives you access. Can I make your portrait? I can walk through this fence, climb over this fence. I can, access. That's the thing that drew me to photography. And I think even to weddings, because I was just like because that's what drew me. It just was like a big fishbowl, like, right. It's like all of that compressed into one day, one space, and you get to wander around it and connect with people.
Yeah, man. And craft is anything, right? Because I remember I'm not even a motorcycle guy. I used to watch this show with my dad in South Africa called American Chopper. It was on like TNT or something. It was just this dad and his son somewhere in Vermont, and they did like custom Harley motorcycles. And again, I'm not a motorcycle guy at all. I don't care. I don't even have a motorcycle. But I watch this show every week because their dedication to the craft was just, again, mesmerizing to me, and I still find this to this day, even like a haircut. Like my haircut's not complicated, right? It's very simple. And you think, whatever, anybody can cut your hair. But man, I can feel when they shave my head, when there's dedication to the craft. I appreciate the hell out of it. I really do. I was just in Mexico City this week and finished the gym. It's like 8:00 in the morning and the barbershop was open. So I was like, I'll get a haircut. And this little old lady cut my hair, right? And it's like a 200 peso haircut. But she crafted it. She gave it so much attention and care that I just gave her 1,000 pesos for it. And I tell my kids this a lot. I'm like, I appreciate that so much in people when they do it that way. Whether it's cooking or cleaning, whatever it is. And I think specifically in the context of weddings, if you can now understand the people, what's important to them, feel them, like you say, like read that room, feel the person, and then give them that. And bring in this history of photography and the technical and the artistic side. And you bring all of that together like a hamburger, right? That one bite, like 60% in where everything combines.
Yeah.
Now you're at a mastery level. Now you're delivering something where the viewer goes, I don't know what it is about this frame, but man, like it really makes me feel something, right? As opposed to just a technically good photograph or whatever.
And really that is our focus, right? When we deliver a collection of images for a wedding, that our main focus is really the 250, what we call highlights, right? The story that's told of the entire day from beginning to end, but the best 250 frames from our perspective, right? And sometimes that's food and detail and the surprise of the mom, the beauty of the bride, all these things. I mean, that's the thing I love about this job is the storytelling. And we're just so lucky to be able to do it.
Because it can be anything, right, James? It can be movement. It can be light. It can be a family member, texture, again, content. And sometimes actually the craft is not even any of that. It's just your ability to connect with the person. For some people, that's like paramount. And if you can connect with them, they don't even care about the photos. They just like, man, you guys, I remember you. I felt you. You saw me, right? And I love you for that. And so now they look at the photos, but it's secondary for some people. So I think to answer that question about craft, specifically as wedding artists, if you will, wedding photographers, that's probably the biggest part, because for a wedding, it's not, we say this to photographers a lot, it's not an art exhibition. It's not. It's a celebration of people. And so that's paramount. Like the design, the location, all of this is like context. It's important too, but it's really just the table being set, the people sitting at the table, if you will. That's the thing.
I mean, I had a shift many years ago now, but like about around family photos, right? The family formals where like it can be chaotic. It can be, it's like herding cats. And for years I heard, photographers, I hate that. I hate that more than that part of it, more than anything. But at one point I was at my grandparents' house and I said, can I see your wedding photos? And you know what they had?
Family photo.
They only had 4 photos.
Yeah.
They dressed up in their wedding outfits, if you will. This was the day before their wedding. They went to the studio and they photographed these formal portraits, and that's what they had of the wedding. They had no photos of their wedding.
Yeah, no,
and all of a sudden, like the family photos shifted in my head. I was like,
yeah,
I'm creating a historical document.
Yeah,
right. This is so important. I'm creating a family heirloom. I'm creating a historical document for people, and that little mindset shift like changed everything for me.
Yeah,
in that. And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like your kid's crying, the dog's looking the other way. Sure, is it nice when it is perfect? But the importance of it is like that you putting people at ease, that they're enjoying this moment, and then that you have this historical document created for this family or these families.
Yeah, it's tremendous. Yeah, James, so even within the context of weddings, right? Like for us, let me tell our clients is what we're looking for is we really want to capture people as they are. Like the power of the still image, in my opinion, is its ability to make you feel something. That's like for me, and that could be just like an Ansel Adams landscape where you're like, I mean, that's just so grand. You know, or it could be an Elliot Erwitt, just pure delight, whimsical delight on the street, you know. I don't know, a dog eating a croissant, whatever. He does some incredible things. Or it can be Sebastian Salgado, you know, mine workers, and you're just arrested by something. But it's the ability, or it's a father-daughter, you know. For me at every wedding, as a dad of 3 daughters, I cry every single father-daughter dance behind my camera because it moves me. Right. It takes me 10, 15, 20 years ahead to their weddings possibly and dancing with them. Right. And that's the power of it. It's like the technical side of it, almost what the photo looks like almost goes out the window. Yeah. It's who's in it and what does it make me feel? And you mentioned Avedon earlier. I think that was the power of Avedon, and his photos are technically just brilliant as well, to be fair. But I think what he did so brilliantly is he just had characters, and he traveled around the US, set up that white backdrop, very simple, natural light. And he had just people, humans, characters, and just said, stand against that. I have no instruction for you. Click. And what you feel in those photographs is the person, the farmer, the firefighter, the weird circus character, right? And it's just incredibly powerful. So, I mean, that's the thing that we're after as well, more than anything.
I mean, go back to that Diane Arbus exhibit. I think what I realized sitting there looking at those images, and she had lots of, images of kind of just oddity also, which like breaks pattern, which like makes you feel something just like, but tension, this idea of, I realized at that moment is like, oh, maybe I'm just making pretty pictures. Right. And I think that's the difference when you're going through it, as when a bride is going through 100 different photographers to try to decide like who should I hire? Like, I think ultimately it's like, what is moving her
right
to in the photographs? Like what, and it's going to be different for each person. Right. And sometimes some brides really just want pretty pictures.
That'll move them. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's quite easy to make pretty pictures.
Yeah, especially
right now. that are kind of devoid of that life energy, like of devoid of the soul of the individual. Which I know that sounds a little
no
wonky, but like where you can look at an image and like really feel something's happening. Like I literally feel that emotion well up inside me, looking at the image, whether that's sadness or joy or whatever the emotion is. And I feel like we need, as a group of photographers, for wedding photographers listening to this, videographers, how do we get back to in that direction more? Like it's really, to me, it's really important because we and I think for many years, wedding photography specifically was poo-pooed as a like, if you were a wedding photographer, you were the lowest rung of a professional, right? Like, and it was all about like staged flash, boom. And at some point we brought in this photojournalism. We brought in like rawness and realness.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we're moving away from that. I think maybe there was a period over the last 10 years we did kind of move away from that, and now we're kind of heading
back.
But I want to just say, like, let's embrace that as photographers, because it's, wedding photography is so much more than making pretty pictures.
Yeah.
You literally get one day of these people's lives to make them feel what they felt that day.
Yeah.
One day, one opportunity.
Yeah.
And if all you're making is pretty pictures, like, I think we're missing because there's days that and weddings that I do that, right? Like, I just struggle to connect, and I come away with some really pretty pictures, and I feel like, I missed today. I've missed.
Yeah. No, I mean, and you talked about this earlier. For me, quite a gear nerd for years, right? So every year, new camera would come out, I'd buy it. New Noctilux lens, I'd buy it because it would upgrade my work, right? And at some point a few years ago, the gear, all of it got so good that when the new camera came out, I'm like, there's no point. The equipment is so far ahead of my ability right now. Upgrading the camera, faster autofocus system, it didn't add anything to the work. And so I feel like what happened was it almost like it plateaued us out again to the point where the question now was, can you anticipate again? Can you compose? Can you make a frame? Because again, 20 years ago when we started, plus years ago, we are old. The technical side was a huge part of that equation. Can you expose? Do you know how to meter for a scene or all of it? Yeah. That's easy now. So I feel like we're back at this point now. The biggest skill as a photographer and a videographer, especially in the wedding industry, is your ability to connect with people. And then can you craft a frame, right? Can you bring that something? Because the gear is it's not the elevator anymore. It just isn't. Like for years, I shot that, and this is part of my craft obsession. I shot the Noctilux, the Leica Noctilux 50 f/0.95, which, for all the nerds out, it's a legendary lens. It's really hard to focus, especially on the rangefinder. But I did it because it it draws in a very unique way, and I was rewarded. It elevated the work. But like now, there's so many lenses like that. Like that's not the thing anymore. Now it's like almost the craft is like taking an ordinary lens and like working the scene, getting something special out of the subject. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's shifted. Because that's where we are now. I'm thinking with weddings, how do we bring something special to this? What is that? How do you see? It's actually exciting, man, because for years, like I said, I was a struggling artist. It was all about the work and very much all about me. And then we shifted from that and said, oh, we need to get better at business. And so we did. And then with that shift, almost like came the shift to it's all about the subject, the couple. It's no longer about us, the artists. But it's again this idea of adding, the arrows to your quiver. I feel like now we're back again a little bit to like the craft of it, making the image, combining it all again for that perfect bite. I like hamburgers, so that's why I keep going back there.
Well, and I think I hope that's what a 20-year career will do. Right. Like things come full circle, and you keep adding tools to your toolbox to where you're like, okay, give me a scene. Like, I've got this.
Yeah. Last night for dinner, we went to this, we're in Oaxaca City. Like I said, we went to dinner at this like Asian experimental restaurant. And the moment I walked in, I'm like, and I said it out loud, I'm like, I pulled my camera out, the Leica out, and I started shooting the chef and everything. I said to my kids, this is going to be good. Because we were sitting right in the kitchen, and to my right was the fermentation closet. And to my left was the fish hanging, smoking, and it was just smoky. And I was like, ooh, I can, it's craft. We're sitting in craft, buckle up. Like, and I started shooting it, immediately and interacting with them. And like, it's just so engaging. And I think we can bring the same level, the same experience to our clients, especially in the luxury experience where clients are looking, what they're paying for is experience. That's what they're after. Anyway, I like the haircut and all of this. Like, I just flip and love craft, man. I do. I really do.
Well, let's talk a little bit about experience. And I think for the luxury client, right, experience is the name of the game, right?
Yeah.
And how do we actually create the most incredible experience is through collaboration.
Yeah, it's one of our favorite words.
Let's talk a little bit about collaboration, because as I hear you talk about all this, like this isn't like you walking into that restaurant, us walking into a space. No, that's not something that we are able to create.
No.
Like, we're a part of it, but we can't create this experience on our own, right? It takes a whole team of 100 people and designers and planners that have thought through every aspect of this for the last 16 months.
Yeah.
And then we are able to come in, literally experience it ourselves, this craft that these people have put together.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so photographing it the way we see it, the way we're experiencing, the way we feel it. And without that collaboration, like we wouldn't have that.
No, totally. And it's huge, right? Because it starts with that planner sitting down with that client and going, okay, tell me your vision. How do you see this? What do you want to feel? And then they start assembling the team, this designer, this photographer, this property, this florist, this video team. And then those teams come together and they start designing this thing, and they're collaborating with the client again, back and forth, sample, testing, try this, what about that? And then you end up on the wedding weekend. And here we step into the culmination of all of this collaboration. And again, it's more collaboration, right? Moving with the client, not bringing in our own narrative, right? Reading the room, feeling them out, talking to the designer, not just stepping into the space and going, oh, details, let me shoot the details. But stepping up to a Rishi or a Michelle or a Lynn and saying, hey, this is beautiful. Tell me how you see it. Why this, why that? Again, collaborating, and then you start shooting it, right?
Yeah.
It's an immense thing. I mean, it's the basis for James and Schulze. I mean, me and you are a collaboration, It's what makes us better. The truly exceptional is always in collaboration. Like if you want to make the greatest hamburger in the world, back to hamburgers, you're sourcing that cheese from some local farmer, and it's this, and it has his 10,000 hours or more of experience in that cheese. And you're sourcing that bun from this baker, and it has his 20,000 hours of experience in that bun. And the meat from this, cattle ranch, and it's like A5 or whatever you say, Wagyu, combined with chuck bone, because there's 20,000 hours of experience, and all of that combines.
Even the pickles matter.
Even the pickles matter. All of that combines in something so simple as a bun with meat and cheese, and you chewing it. But that's the exceptional. It's that collaboration. That's the thing, man.
It's a really great example, honestly, of what a wedding looks like. Because you do have all these people who've spent half their life working on this type of thing, like making sure that the band that they brought in from 3,000 miles away is well rested, is well fed, can perform to their best.
Yeah. Man.
And I just love that idea of this this culmination, this final piece of the symphony being played. And we have the benefit, we have the honor of capturing that in still image to go like, look, this is what it was. This is what it felt like. And that will never happen again. Like it's such a, for any photographer, if you're a photographer that's going, tired of doing this, like, but we have to shift our mindset of what it is that we're able to do at a wedding.
You talk about the band, like one of my favorite people to watch craft that experience is Josh from Elan Artists. So this guy curates his artists meticulously, right? Only the best. So they're all there. They're the best of the best in this space, and there they are. They can do their job. They're going to do it. But then you watch Josh on the weekend, start, setting that thing up and tweaking it and listening, back of the room and like down, up, and this and that. And the whole, even once they start playing, That guy never stops. He's constantly just collaborating and saying like this, watching the guests. What is their experience? Oh, somebody in the back, I can see that's a little loud. Down, up a little bit more. They're reacting to this more. Another one like that. It's magnificent to watch.
Yeah, it is. It is. Collaboration is the name of the game.
It really is.
And it's a gift, honestly, to be able to work with the people we get to work with, and to help curate experience and to help capture that experience.
Yeah, and then the actual collaboration on the day with the client and their families as well, right? All these personalities, mom's excitement, her daughter's getting married, dad's nervousness, all of these things. We're collaborating with them too, feeling them out. Hey, feel a little bit of like anxiety maybe from the bride. Like when we're shooting her, you're not just pointing a really expensive camera at her with your 20,000 hours of experience. You're looking at her, you're feeling her, you're going, oh man, you look beautiful, or yeah, like that, or you're leaving them, it's collaboration. It's not just a story. It's the whole game. It really is.
Well, and as I sit here listening to you talk about it, this is a complicated craft. A wedding day, wedding photography, wedding videography, whatever it is. If you really think through everything we're just saying, everything that you're balancing, you're juggling, as great of a gift that it is, complicated.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I guess I'm speaking to photographers right now, right? Because I'm having this realization as we talk, even more so, even though we talk about this type of stuff often, I'm realizing like, man, that it's worth spending time and thinking through that part of the craft.
Yeah.
And why it's important to be quick with the photo, right? And why it's important to be able to read a room, and why it's important to be able to talk to the designer and go, wait, you're saying the plates were flown in from Portugal? Like, there's all these things that you're juggling and balancing, and it's a complicated job.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm saying is just like lean into that. Lean into it. Keep just striving to be a better collaborator, because your work's going to get better. Yeah,
it's okay to obsess over your craft, is what you're saying. Yeah. Become a bit of a pain about it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you're not, maybe you should be.
Yeah. No. Yeah, man, it's the thing that I tell my kids. I've told them this over and over. I said, like, find something that you're into and give it at least 10,000 hours. It will reward you, whatever that is, man. I talk about this with like working out. Like I've been working out for 30 years and squatting for 30 years. And it's literally taken me 25 years. A few years ago, I got to the moment where I'm like, there it is. That's how you squat. You know what I mean? And it's the same with all of these things. Craft, grilling a steak, relationships, whatever. Like find something and give it your time. Give it your obsession, It's so rewarding in so many ways.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if there's a better way to end this episode than that. Like we started by talking about photography, and obsessing over your craft. I think it could be is the theme of this episode.
Yeah, really, man. No, it's invigorating, right? Even for us talking about this now, it's so good. Like I'm going to go out today and I'm going to go shoot these streets in Oaxaca in a whole new way. Like, my kids in a whole new way. It's just, again, it's awareness, man. It's mindfulness. It's being aware. It's being present in the moment. It's looking someone in the eye. It's listening. It's because I think a lot about this when I drive home. I drive to the gym in the morning, same route. And oftentimes I force myself to look the other way, look to the left today. And it's amazing how much you see when you do that. You're like, oh, look at that. It's a yellow house. It's been there for like 3 years and I missed it. And I think if you can bring that same kind of like curiosity to our job. So especially with weddings, because it's very easy to step into a wedding space, which is very repetitive, and go, I know this space. getting ready, ceremony, family portrait, sunset, cocktails, reception, dancing, boom, exit. And just like sausage factory it out, right?
Yeah.
Or you can walk into the space and go, man, I've never been at this wedding before. This is one of one. This has never happened. And pure curiosity can drive you. And you'll have a blast doing it. People will notice it. The work will be better. Your clients will love it. Up-level the whole thing right there. Your business, your experience, your day,